So, welcome ladies and gentlemen. This is Witcher 3 and mainly... Well, yesterday was a relatively big press conference for Sony at the Paris Games Week. Paris Games Week is traditionally, it doesn't really matter, doesn't really mean anything, but for some reason uh, Sony gave a big press conference with a lot of announcements, actually new announcements, big announcements also, a couple, and well, I thought, hey, let's play some Witcher and share my thoughts about this press conference. So the first couple of games they announced weren't very exciting to me, but that's more of a personal thing, because I'm not a big fan of fighting games, and I think they started with Street Fighter and Tekken. I'm not sure actually, but those were one of the first games they showed, and I never really played any fighting games. The only fighting game I ever played was, I think, WCW against NWO for the Nintendo 64, which I had a really great time, but you can't really call that a serious fighting game. It's a wrestling game, mainly for laughs, and but well, Street Fighter 5 looks amazing. It's been announced some time ago, so it's been announced like half a year ago, I think already. But it has a really cartoony, cel-shaded look, and it's going back to the basics and using all the old traditional characters and stuff. I don't know. I think they are doing a good job on that, but I'm not an expert at all on the matter. So, and it's the same with the Tekken 7, which I think is a big announcement, but nobody really seems like the press not very impressed with it. I was that they announced it, or maybe I missed something, and maybe it was already announced earlier. I'm not sure about that, but yeah, what can I say? Tekken 7, same story. It's also a fighting game. I'm not really into fighting games. It's cool that they support Sony VR, which is was also a big part of the press conference. They were focusing on the Sony VR a pretty big time, which was cool. Yeah, what else? There was a Call of Duty announcement and a Battlefield announcement. Also, two things I really don't care about. So let's get that out of the way. Let's talk about the games I did care about. First of all, the biggest news of the press conference was, I think, the announcement of the release date of No Man's Sky, which is June 2016. They've been pushing that news forward for a very long time, but finally they gave us a date, which is acceptable. It's like half a year, I think, a little more. So yeah, it's still No Man's Sky. I'm super excited about it, and I'm sure I'm gonna play it as soon as it comes out. On the other hand, yeah, like everybody else, I'm still a little bit cautious about being all over the moon about it, because they didn't show that much different stuff to do actually in the game. The main part of it is being an explorer, you know, having this endless amount of planets at your disposal to discover. Chances are really small actually that you run into other people, because the universe is so big that yeah, it's like finding a needle in a haystack. And they also want it to be like a special experience when you run into other people, and yeah, if it happens like all the time, it's not very special anymore. So I'm really curious how that's gonna be also with the combat, because there's apparently a big part of its combat like um, based on factions and that kind of stuff. But yeah, how is it gonna work if you never really run into anybody? I don't know. But like everybody, I'm very excited about the game, and it looks amazeballs, and I think it might be it's gonna be a classic anyway, even if it's like just like Spore, you know, which was like a huge thing when it came out. People are still talking about it because it was such a disappointment. So Yeah, I expect a lot from the game. Either way, if it's good or if it's bad, it's gonna mean something to the industry. So that's cool. Yeah, and a new trailer for it, which is also pretty big news. But the biggest news of this press conference was the release date, which is June 2016. Okay, yeah. What else? What else did we? Yeah, we had. Well, funny thing about the conference was that it was in France, in Paris, which I think is really cool to have a European press conference. It actually makes sense. Um, but the funny thing was also that there were a lot of French developers there on stage. Maybe it's a coincidence. Maybe they thought about that. But one of them was I'm sorry I forgot the name of the studio, but the game Wild, which is released announced earlier, but they had like a gameplay trailer now, which looked pretty interesting. It was also, well, it's based on you're being a shaman, like a sort of a guy really close to nature in some alternative universe or a different time, and you're able to possess animals. And for example, what they showed was one of people in your tribe has a snake bait. Well, you possess a bird to get to the snake because you need the snake to get the antivenom. Then you fly the snake to this place where you have to summon this snake lady, so she can give you antivenom. In the meantime, you like ride a bear and become a bunny to escape some enemies. Well, it's a cool concept, I think, like possessing animals and using different approaches in that way to solve problems. But I don't know. I didn't really get that warm from it. It didn't look like something that could stay interesting for like an hour or for like 60 hours. I mean, you know. But I don't know. It's probably just a really small part of the game. It felt a little bit like a gimmick, but people were really enthusiastic about it. So I guess there's something in there. I don't know. Well, other game which was really exciting, I think, also from a French developer, is Detroit, from David Cage from Quantic Dreams. They made very interesting games, really based on your choice and taking games into like a different direction, like more movie-based, more emotional. These guys are really in the wrong place at the wrong time. Quantic Dream's new game, Detroit, I think everybody was like, haha, Detroit, at least what I read in the reactions, but I think it was really, it looked really interesting. It's about this android. They released this sort of concept they had earlier, half a year ago, about the android lady, about an alternative future where android lady was suddenly like got real emotions and escaped the factory. And in this game, they took that and turned into a real game based in Detroit. And yeah, I think it's a very interesting concept. It looked amazing, like the graphics. It was not like in-game. I think the game's not that far yet, but their games are famous for being really good looking. Also because usually the movement and the animations are kind of limited because it's more based on story. So I'm sure it's gonna look great. I'm sure people are gonna hate it, and I'm sure a small group of people are gonna love it. So Detroit, yeah, I think it's I think it was one of the most interesting games in the press conference. Not the most interesting one though, but I'll come to that one later. Because first I want to talk to Horizon, a new game from Dutch, Amsterdam-based actually, Guerrilla. If I get on my bike in 5 minutes, I can be in their studio. Always makes me proud seeing a Dutch guy on stage, which is kind of ridiculous, but still. There was a Dutch guy on stage yesterday, which I thought, well. And then he showed one of the most interesting games of the press conference, which is Horizon Zero Dawn, I think is the undertitle. So a game by Guerrilla. They're famous for their Killzone series, which is like a traditional shooter. But this is something completely different. This is more of a... One second. Yeah, it kind of reminds me a little bit more of The Witcher actually, especially compared to Killzone. But it's a game that's set in like 1,000 years in the future, where you play this lady, Aloy she's called, and you're one of the last humans on Earth, or part of one of the last tribes of humans, because the Earth is partly overgrown with nature completely, partly completely overgrown with nature, and on the other hand, there's like gigantic robot clans roaming the Earth. Some of them are small, some of them are big, but the groups they're like tribes, like like hordes. That's the word. And I think it's gonna be a very interesting game. It looks really good, and the concept is something fresh. I've never been a big fan of the Killzone games, mainly because I just don't really like shooters like that, like traditional shooters. But yeah, the game looks fresh, and I think it's good for the studio to pick up a new direction, and it's a direction I like. So it's definitely one of my favorites of this press conference today. Although it's not my favorite game, because that is Dreams. I think Dreams from Media Molecule, the makers of A Little Big Planet games. Which I never played actually, but they announced on E3 last year. They announced a new game called Dreams, and it's kinda unclear what it does, but it looks really, really incredible. It's really hard to describe. I recommend you to watch a trailer or the stuff they showed at the press conference yesterday. But it's a game mainly based on you creating whatever you want in a very dreamy world, and all the dreams are connected to each other. So you create a dream, and you can see a dream as like a level or something, like a 2D, I don't know, Mario Bros style level, and then you hide a key somewhere that opens up a door to a different world, maybe to somebody else's dream, maybe to another dream you created. Yeah, it's hard to describe, but it has this really great sort of emotional atmosphere around it, and the guys, you also saw that the guys who presented it were really into it in a really nice way. So I think if I would have to choose one of the games Sony showed yesterday at the Paris Game Week press conference, it would be Dreams. I think Dreams is going to be very interesting. It's coming from a studio that already showed that they know how to make like games that are based on user content, like the Little Big Planet games were all about you creating the game you want actually. And I think Little Big Planet 3 was received incredibly good. So yeah, it's it's a game I'm looking forward to very much. But well, enough about Dreams. Yeah, what more did they show? They showed some Uncharted 4 multiplayer, which looked yeah, kind of based on like magic and stuff, which is kind of weird, because although the Uncharted series of course has some magic in it and like supernatural stuff, yeah, it felt kind of out of place that they were like throwing around fire and stuff. I don't know, but I doubt if I'm ever gonna play the multiplayer of Uncharted, because I'm not much of a multiplayer player. It looked interesting though. It looked, yeah, kind of hectic and wild, and I think Naughty Dog did a good job on The Last of Us multiplayer, so I bet it's gonna be nice to play. Nothing more to say about that. Yeah, well, there was some virtual reality stuff, like a Crytek game, maker of Far Cry. Robinson, which looked like Jurassic Park actually, combined with Portal. like a robot showing you where to go. And then it's funny actually. It also reminded me of Horizon because it's like a combination of prehistoric times and extremely modern times. Because in this trailer of Robinson, this VR game by Crytek, you are led by this sort of floating robot ball with a voice, with like a quirky voice, just like in Portal. And on the other hand, there's like dinosaurs walking around. You have to escape from. And then in the end, you find this Tyrannosaurus Rex, and then the trailer stops. So I don't know. It could be anything actually. I don't know what to say about that. Oh yeah, Until Dawn, horror success game actually, like a kind of a surprise. Supermassive Games game is gonna get a virtual reality spin-off, which I think is gonna be interesting because Until Dawn was a great game, and I think horror games are can be very interesting on VR. So yeah, could be interesting. Well, then there's some other VR stuff I wasn't really interested in. Then they also showed some other games I'm not really interested in, like Boundless, I don't know, like a future Minecraft game, and Matterfall, also, I don't know, some sort of Titanfall-ish shooter with, it was like not in-game trailer, it was not interesting at all. And last, but not very interestingly least, was a game called Drive Club. Or a game called Drive Club. Well, it's actually an expansion on Drive Club. Drive Club is a big race game, and they made an expansion which was released right away, which I always like when they do that. You know, to announce something and to release it as soon as the press conference stops. I love that they do that, and they did it now with expansion for Drive Club. They're gonna take bikes to Drive Club, so you can yeah, you can also race with bikes. I'm not much of a racing lover, but I think Drive Club is a step forward for the racing genre, and yeah, to add bikes to that is only a good thing, I guess. So yeah, well, let's round it up. I think for lovers of fighting games, it was a great press conference with new Street Fighter footage and news, and Tekken 7. Also the announcement of Tekken 7 VR. For racing games it was a good one because, well, Gran Turismo is announced. I didn't even talk about that, but a new Gran Turismo is announced, which is actually really big news. Exclusively for PS4, of course, and based. I think they're gonna go for esports in a big way because it was really focused on competition. You can like drive for your country. You can support your brand, like, you know, if you were like a great Alfa Romeo fan. I don't know, for me it's a world really far from my bed, but you know, if you're like a Mercedes lover or I don't know, Opel fanboy, you can race for your brand and with your brand, which I guess is really nice. So it's interesting. I think it's gonna take a long time before it's being released, because that's kind of a thing always with the Gran Turismo games, that they take a long time to develop, and that like yeah, step by step things are. Hey, range. No, I'm not American. I'm Dutch. I'm from Amsterdam. So yeah, Gran Turismo 5. Yeah, I think I did. I talked about pretty much everything that interested me in the press conference. So I guess I'm gonna round it up. Thanks for listening. Thanks for the comment. I'm not American. I don't know if are you American? Ah, you're Dutch. got some viewers. Yeah, this stream is mainly I'm just walking around, talking about the press conference on the Paris Games Week last week and my thoughts about it and the games they announced. They did a couple of cool announcements, and I thought, well, you know, why shouldn't I talk about it a little bit on stream? Which I did for like 20 minutes. Hey, thanks for following me. Ranged WO fan. Or range TWO fan. No, but well, so I'm just actually just walking around in Witcher, and that's it. I think I'm gonna round this up for now, because I think I'm gonna make a YouTube post of this video, because it contains my thoughts on the game show. Maybe there's people out there who want to hear it. Alright, I'll be back in like 1 minute. See ya.